a protest in which they're calling for death to Jews. So we came down here to stand united with Israel. Jews are under attack and they're being hurt and murdered by Arab terrorists, and they're inciting more violence. So we're here to stand up for what's right.
So today we're really highlighting what's happening in Palestine. As we're talking about a lot of things happening across the world, we're really highlighting what's happening there with the political prisoners, with everything that's really going on in Gaza and everywhere across Palestine, in Al-Quds, and we really want to make sure that everyone here in New York City hears that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, with the help of the Almighty, we're just bringing a delegation of rabbis and students to show the hurt of the Jewish community and of our brothers and sisters in Al-Quds, in occupied Palestine, in Jerusalem, and around the world about the occupation in its entirety, first of all, because it's a continual, just one sorrowful link after another, this long chain of pain and suffering of both the Palestinian people and the Jewish people, because there is this Zionist state of Israel is actually a Confederate movement. It's a movement of people masquerading in our religion using the Star of David in the name Judaism. They call it a Jewish state. to be able to legitimize a political movement of an ideology called Zionism, which is colonization, taking the land from other people, a selfish, flawed colonization of a group of people, not acceptable according to my religion, which is Judaism. Judaism is to be subservient to God. It is to be grateful for our neighbors and people who have been living, who have embraced us for hundreds and hundreds of years around the world. Besides that, we're not allowed to kill or steal, but simply to show our appreciation for the Muslim people that were done for us in these Palestine and throughout the Muslim world. So there's a double crime there, and stealing and killing, as I say, is basically a crime. Yet the Jewish religion is being used as a tool to legitimize this occupation, claiming that God gave them the land. Now, we know our Judaism. Judaism told us clearly that we're not to kill or steal. Judaism tells us that 2,000 years ago we were sent into exile and were forbidden to reestablish a Jewish sovereignty until the Almighty, with His compassion and will reveal His glory, all humanity will serve Him in harmony. And that won't be a state of Israel. It won't be that at all. So the whole ideology, the whole issue is a group of criminals using our religion. I carry around with me documents. First of all, the picture of maybe the first the Declaration of Independence of the Zionist state of Israel, and you can see that one of them is covering their head. You know, these are the leaders of the Zionist state in 1948. So you can see the farce of what it is. While the Jews in hundreds of thousands live in the Holy Land and demonstrate against the occupation, they get brutally beaten day and night. We have people, they get with no compunctions. They have no shame of what they're doing to the Jewish community. Boys, girls, they spray them with chemicals and brutally beat little children. They arrest every single Jew who refused to serve in the army there. Here you see Jewish girls, 17. Every boy and girl who turns 17 is considered a criminal because we refuse to support and serve in their IDF. And this is an ongoing tragedy. And I always like to state that in 1948, right before they created the state, the chief rabbi of Palestine, nothing to be confused with the Israeli rabbinate. Like I said, that's just a farce. They're using our religion. But the chief rabbi of Palestine, and his name was Rabbi Dushinsky of blessed memory, he went, and this is the picture of him meeting with the delegation of the United Nations, and it's a United Nations statement that I'm going to quote. He said, "We furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine." In other words, we don't want a Jewish state. This was the very religious man representing the Jewish community. He said, we don't want a Jewish state. It's nothing with our religion. Unfortunately, he was ignored. It's in the United Nations documents. They were ignored. Our whole Jewish communities were ignored. And the Zionists, with their political connections, were taken as the so-called representatives of Judaism, and they traipse around the world with their chief rabbis, occupy the Palestinians. Now they made a march to go up to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that's what would happen now. And of course, there's this agitation there, and daily Palestinians get killed, and people. Of course, it hurts us, of course. Everybody who gets killed over there, but the root cause is this occupation. The root cause is the constant suppression of the Palestinian people and of the Jewish people who refuse to accept this illegitimate, this criminal occupation. That's what we're here for, to let the world always remember that what they're supporting as the State of Israel is not supporting Jewish religion. They should know they're supporting a really criminal entity, and we cry with them, my brothers and sisters in Palestine, the Jewish people, and we pray every day that the Almighty, with His compassion, should bring an end to this occupation peacefully. But we also plead with our political leaders around the world not to be intimidated by the Zionist movement, to hear the voice of the Jewish people, the true Jewish people that are still living in Palestine and around the world, and respect our religion and free Palestine from the occupation.
two states. We want 48.
We want 48. Settlers, go back home.
Palestine is our home.
It is right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Stop the U.S. war machine.
Palestine is the Philippines.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
When people are occupied.
Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
Occupation is a crime.
Occupation is a crime.
From New York to Palestine.
New York to Palestine.
Not just annexation, not just occupation.
Fight for liberation, bring the whole thing down. Not just annexation, not just occupation. Fight for liberation, bring the whole thing down.
Not another nickel,
Not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another nickel. Not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes.
Israel, you can hide.
Israel, you can hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
Israel, you can hide.
Israel, you can hide.
You're committing genocide.
You're committing genocide.
Palestine is our demand.
Palestine is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
Peace on stolen land.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
People are occupied.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
People are occupied.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
Palestine is under attack.
Palestine is under attack.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
Hear you. Not just annexation, not just occupation. Fight for liberation. Bring the whole thing down.
Not just annexation, not just occupation. Fight for liberation, bring the whole thing down.
Not just annexation, not just occupation. Fight for liberation. Bring the whole thing down.
Not just annexation, not just occupation. Fight for liberation, bring the whole thing down.
My name is Nadine Giswani and I'm with Within Our Lifetime. We are one of the multiple organizations that have organized this rally today along with Samadoun, the Palestinian Youth Movement, Decolonize This Place, Existence is Resistance. I know we got CUNY Law, SJP in the house. The Free Ahmed Manasla campaign is also here, and so many other organizations that are here to speak to you. And you'll hear from our speakers soon. I just want to start off by saying that we know why we're here. We're here to protest this consulate, this flag that is responsible for the killing of countless Palestinians, not just in recent days, but for over 70 years, for the last 74 years, and even before that, even before the Nakba. So we're going to hear from different speakers today, and I want you all to give them your undivided attention. Don't let Zionists or detractors distract us from learning about our struggle and learning about our cause. Because not only is this space today here for us to collectively rage together about the constant injustices that we are witnessing happening on Palestinian land, blood being spilled on holy land. We are also here to learn about Palestine so that we can go home, go back to our schools, our workplaces, our institutions, and educate everyone else about this and mobilize everyone else until every inch of Palestine is free from the river to the sea by any means necessary. So we're going to hear from our first speaker from the Palestinian Youth Movement. Give it up. land by the colonial imperial state of Israel, which is nothing other than the manifestation of a 100-year-long Western imperialist invasion of Arab lands. Today, I want to talk about what we're calling a rally. A rally to support Palestinian resistance and liberation. We call our rally a rally to support Palestinian resistance because what drives Palestinian struggle is resistance. And we call our rally a rally to support Palestinian liberation because what remains the ultimate objective of Palestinian struggle is total liberation. And when we say total liberation, we do not mean this in an abstract or wishy-washy way. We mean the total liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. We mean the rightful return of the millions of displaced Palestinians who have remained in exile for decades. And we mean the complete end of the Zionist expansion and invasion of all Arab lands. Today, Zionists are not happy about our uses of the words resistance and liberation. They've gone on in the past few days to write pathetic op-eds in Zionist media, smearing us, claiming that the use of our direct and justified language of resistance and liberation is insightful. This Zionist claim should be no surprise to any of us. Resistance and liberation are two things that are constantly suppressed by the imperialist media in this country. The Zionists, the US, the reactionary European states, and those who propel the colonial project in Palestine refuse to discuss resistance and liberation when spreading their propaganda about Palestine, because these are the two things that make our struggle legitimate. For us, in the center of the US empire, we must constantly reframe the Palestinian struggle by centering the importance of Palestinian resistance and the moral, ethical, and legal right to resist. We must constantly challenge how the US and Israel and their propaganda machines attempt to erase resistance from our struggle. Their criminalization of resistance is their attempt to alienate the Palestinian people from the world, to smear our struggle, and to manufacture consent from Americans for the colonization of Palestine by feeding Americans lies and racist propaganda. The erasure of resistance is directly tied to the ongoing project of making American people ignorant of the world and of making American people ignorant of the ongoing reality of Palestinian resistance. This has allowed the US and Europe to manufacture consent from their populations for Zionist fascism in Palestine, which is only sustainable due to US and European support. Yet despite these attempts, our history and our reality continues to prove that resistance to the Zionist project is the only way forward for Palestinian liberation, and that resistance is what ensures the existence of Palestinian people. As another comrade in PYM has said, some say our existence is resistance, but it's actually the other way around. Our resistance is what allows our existence. It's our long legacy of resistance that has made our existence possible and that has made our existence revolutionary. Palestinians have every right to resist. They have every right to engage in acts, sabotage, and resistance, and this is a right that has allowed us to live with dignity and our heads held high. Palestinian resistance has always understood the nature of Zionism the best. In 1968, forces of the Palestinian Revolution wrote that Zionism is racist and fanatic in its nature, aggressive, expansionist, and colonial in its aims, and fascist in its methods. Today, Zionism continues to operate on and sustain itself from degradation, violence, exploitation, mass imprisonment, and theft. Throughout its entire existence, Zionism, embodied in the State of Israel, has proved to the world that it stops at nothing. And in response, Palestinians have proven that we will never end our struggle for the liberation of Palestine and its return to its rightful inhabitants. Yesterday, the Zionist state made a decision to not allow settlers, Zionist settlers, to enter the holy site of Al-Aqsa starting on Friday. This is a direct result of Palestinian resistance. Settlers will not enter Al-Aqsa thanks to the Palestinian youth who have been valiantly defending Al-Aqsa against these violent Zionist incursions made possible by American and European weapons, money, silence, and complicity. Today, the Zionists had planned a march through Jerusalem in celebration of ethnic cleansing. This is a march that fascist Zionist forces have every year, where they march towards the old city and try to intimidate and terrorize Palestinians in their city. But this got canceled, and the settlers were forced to retreat. It was canceled due to their fear of retaliation in Gaza. Due to the fear of the resistance from Gaza, which is the center of Palestinian resistance. And Gaza, which continues to answer when Palestine is attacked, just as we saw last year when the people of Gaza rose up in defense of Palestine and against the Zionist expropriations in Sheikh Jarrah. Because Gaza proves time and time again that Palestine is one, that the Palestinian people are one, and that Palestine will not be divided, the Zionists and the Israelis today are afraid. They show their true nature as cowards, and they have retreated. This retreat is thanks to the resistance of the Palestinian people. We need to understand that any single capitulation or surrender of the Zionist state is due to the Palestinians on the ground directly confronting Zionism from Jerusalem to Gaza to Jenin. Any win of the Palestinian people comes from the Palestinian people and their supporters. Our struggle is long, but as Bassem Kanafani said, there is no end to our struggle. There is no end to Palestinian struggle as long as Zionism and imperialism are present in our land. As Palestinians, we're bearers of a rich and beautiful history. Our history is defined by our peoples with steadfast popular resistance to Zionist colonization and global imperialism. At every turn, Palestinian history is marked by revolutionary struggle against reactionary violence. From the 1936 to 1939 revolution, led by dispossessed Palestinian peasants, to the Palestinian revolution of the 60s and 70s, to the intifadas, which showed the world that the Palestinian people will never stop fighting for Palestine. For over 100 years, our people have faced Zionist settler colonialism and imperialism, and for over 100 years, Palestinians and revolutionary Arabs have risen and struggled against it. What makes Palestinian struggle heroic and what makes Palestinian struggle legitimate is that resistance has never receded and that the objective of liberation and return has never faded. For everyone here today, we should never forget these three things. One, when we organize for Palestine, we are organizing for a struggle that has been in existence for over 100 years. Two, that we are therefore part of a struggle which has always been global and always been in line with the progressive movements against colonial barbarism, imperial expansion, and the capitalist degradation of the world and its inhabitants. And three, that because of our location in the US, in the center of empire, we have increasingly important obligation to not only confront and condemn Zionism, but to support Palestinians in their legitimate resistance struggle to reclaim our rightful place in history.
Israel, you can't hide! Israel, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Zionists, you can't hide! Zionists, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Israel, we know you! Israel, we know you! You imprison children too! You imprison children too! Israel, we know you! Israel, we know you! You imprison children too! You imprison children too! I want to ask a question to the crowd. By a show of hands, how many have you seen this face or heard the name Ahmed Manasla? It's amazing. So many people here have heard about Ahmed Manasla. And if you didn't, we're going to hear about him a little bit more. But ever since October 2015, when the world watched the horrific video of 13-year-old Ahmed lying on the ground, bleeding
occupation forces. Moments after he had witnessed the Israeli occupation forces shoot and kill his older cousin. To this day, he continues to be in prison. To this day, like many Palestinian children who are suffering at the hands of the Zionist state, of course they do this for no reason, and they have no reason to begin with because they have no right to be on our land. So please give it up to our next speaker, Lamahouri from the Palestine Global Mental Health Network, who is also part of the Free Ahmed Manasla campaign, to talk about him a little bit more to you all today.
Thank you all for being here. You all know about him. I don't have to tell you more. But I want you to know that Ahmed is one of hundreds of Palestinian children. I have to speak up a little. I can speak louder. I can. For Ahmed, let's speak louder. So Ahmed, as you know, probably you know, every year there are at least 700 Palestinian children are jailed and go through an apartheid system that makes sure to crush their soul and spirit. It's a vengeful system that aims to destroy our future. You know, this is a big plan. It's not only Ahmed Manasla. This is a plan to steal our childhood, to steal our future. That's why we want to free Ahmed Manasla. He is now suffering. He needs immediate medical attention. What we are asking for is for his immediate release to get proper medical attention. But also he is one of a system we have coined a term called unchilding, which is stealing the childhood of the Palestinians. If they steal the childhood of our people, we don't have a future. We don't have Palestine. So thank you all for being here. I have leaflets back there. Come take them so you know what you can do to help us free Ahmed Manasla. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So I come to you all today with a very, very short message. And that is glory to the martyrs, glory to the resistance, glory to Palestinian men fighting on the land, glory to each and every single person throwing the stones, glory to each and every single Palestinian man, woman, child fighting for their land. And make no mistake, folks will tell you that this is not a cause about Islam. I'm here to remind you today that Palestine is not only about Islam, but it is about Islam. It is not the only cause, but it is one of the causes. And if it were not, they would not be raining their bullets in Masjid al-Aqsa during the holy month of Ramadan. So what I'm about to do today, right now, is make a short dua, and that's a prayer. And I'm going to ask all the audience here to speak Arabic for a mic check. So I'm going to say it, you repeat after me. All right? Can I hear y'all? Yes! Great. Okay. اللهم اشرح صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم انصر اهل فلسطين. اللهم انصرهم على من عاداهم. اللهم صوب رميهم. اللهم ثبت الارض تحت اقدامهم. اللهم اجعل نار اعدائهم بردا وسلاما عليهم. اللهم اجعل لاهل فلسطين النصر والعزة والغلبة والقوة والهيبة في قلوب أعدائهم. اللهم اشف جرحاهم. اللهم أسر أسراهم. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في سبيل الله في برك وبحرك وجوك يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل نار المسلمين تحرق الأعداء. اللهم احرس المسجد الأقصى في مكر الماكرين. اللهم اقتل من قتل المسلمين. اللهم انصر شعب فلسطين على أعدائك وأعدائهم. اللهم آمين. آمين. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. And the last reminder I have today is greater empires have crumbled beneath our feet. And Israel
message. We know that this is the holiest time in Islam, the holiest month in Islam. And Al-Aqsa is the holiest site for Muslims who are living in Palestine. In all of Palestine, it's the holiest site. In Islam, it is the third holiest site. It is the first Qibla. That means it is the direction where every single Muslim wants praying. And that is not by accident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom gave us that to remind us that we cannot just rush past the injustices that we see happening in the streets or to our brothers and sisters in Palestine and ignore it to go pray Taraweeh. Because our religion tells us that we must resist in pursuit of justice, that we must fight injustice anywhere we see it. So while it is disgusting that the Zionist attacks escalate in Ramadan because they believe that Muslims are going to be weaker, that the people of Palestine are even stronger. The lions of Palestine are even stronger. And just like someone from PYM said in the beginning, we were actually able to gain a great win out of this. The fact that Israeli soldiers are not letting settlers go into Al-Aqsa at this point because they fear retaliation from Gaza is a very important and strong point for our struggle. Because with all their might, with all their billions, with all their weapons, with all the backing of the empire, of the U.S. empire that has waged colonialism, that has waged imperialism, war and death on the masses, the billions of masses around the world, the people of Palestine, without an army, with homemade resistance, with homemade weapons, with rocks, with our spirit, with our resilience, are resisting and we are winning. And we are going to win, and we are going to free Palestine within our lifetime, because we understand this phrase, by any means necessary. And when I say this phrase, I'm going to tie it back to Black liberation, because we know who said it. Malcolm X, who also went to Palestine, who also saw these injustices happen. And this phrase rings true not only for Palestinians who are fighting oppression, but of course, this phrase from the beginning started with the Black liberation struggle, who we learn from every day. And when we say from New York to Palestine, occupation is a crime, we understand that occupation isn't just the Israeli soldiers brutalizing, killing Palestinians on our land, but it is also the NYPD here who have been brutalizing Black people for decades. It is the NYPD here who, instead of preventing the shooting on the train the other day, they have nothing better to do than harass homeless people. They have nothing better to do than homeless sweeps, which we saw videos of again this morning, kicking out homeless people from the few places that they've been able to find to seek shelter. That is also a form of occupation. And I bring this up because we have to understand that our struggles are inextricably linked, that we cannot liberate one struggle without the other. These oppressors, that Israeli flag, that American flag, they come together not only to oppress Palestinians and people here, but people all over the world. The U.S. gives $10 million a day in military aid to Israel from your tax dollars. So next time somebody says, what does this have to do with me? Remind them, you're paying for it. You're paying for it. And if you disagree with what your government is paying for, if you disagree with the fact that the U.S. sends millions of dollars that end up as bullets in the chest vocal and stand up and speak against it. Gaza has been under attack once again during Ramadan. The Zionists have escalated violence against Palestinians, and they bombed Gaza this year, just like they did last year, just like they did in 2014, just like they do almost every year in Ramadan. This is why we called for this urgent mobilization. And there are protests that are happening around the world, not just in New York. Cities around the entire country and worldwide are coming together to condemn this latest attack on Gaza and the arrest of the nearly 500 Palestinians since Friday who are attempting to pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque. We call for an end to the Zionist bombardment of Gaza. We call for an end to the attacks on Al-Aqsa and all forms of Zionist colonial violence. And we call an end to Zionism, and yes, we call an end to the settler state of Israel. No settler state has the right to exist, especially one built off of the continuous genocide of the Palestinian people. The Nakba may have begun in 1948, but it did not end. It's going on till today. And the only way to end it is to free Palestine within our lifetime by any means necessary. 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 We will free Palestine. We will free Palestine within our lifetime. Within
Yo, get him, burn him. Yeah, cuz, fuck that shit, cuz, let's burn that shit. Yo, yo, who stole that shit?
For way less than that.
What?
Where's the block at?
You need the lighter?
Yes, you got hand sanitizer? Give me. And put the hand sanitizer, right?
You should have told me.
Yo, we gotta one look because they're gonna use it as
Against Anu. انت
That's fucking.
I brought it with me. This is fine. That's all I'm saying.
You don't want to burn it? You don't want to burn
you getting mad at us? Fuck you, nigga, what happened? Suck my dick.
Get off the street! Get off the street! Get off the street!
the flags and they're going to recognize the name. We're going to say Palestine 5 times, Palestine 5 times at the top of our lungs. Palestine! 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 Now you all say yeah to the stone throwers of Al-Aqsa. And that means we stand with the Palestinian prisoners who gave up everything, who gave up their life in defense of our struggle and our cause. We know that the attacks against the Palestinian people are not going to end until Zionism is wiped out, until Zionism and colonialism and all of its institutions crumble, and until there is no such thing as